A sacrifice always involves giving up. And whenever we use the word sacrifice, it's always giving up for the higher. The difference between a sacrifice and a compromise is a compromise, I give up the higher for the lower. In a sacrifice, I give up the lower for the higher. Pujya Guruji uses the example of the corrupt politician and the great patriot. The corrupt politician gives up the nation for his or her pocket, and the great patriot gives up his or her pocket for the nation. Both involve giving up. Both involve renunciation, tyaga. Now, the mind doesn't know how to give up. It's not the nature of the mind to give up. It doesn't know what to do. So the only way for the mind to give up anything is if it engages in something else. Often I meet parents who try to control their children. And they fail miserably at that. Because a child cannot be controlled. It is not the nature of a child to be controlled. All one can do is engage that child, and that child will go in the direction that is encouraged. The mind is the same way. Which is why our masters say, treat the mind like a child. Don't control the mind. It's not possible. Engage the mind. And when we engage the mind will escape from what we wanted it to escape from. This is the message behind holistic habits. For what else is a habit other than a thought-action pattern? My thought, my action, the pattern. The conditioned thought leads to the conditioned action, which is a habit. And this observation, this truth, is extremely powerful. Think of some of the habits that we have. Imagine trying to change some of the habits we have. Someone had mentioned yesterday that they procrastinate a great deal. Have you ever tried changing procrastination? We procrastinate in trying to change procrastination. That's what the conditioned thought action is. We see in Mahabharata where Yudhishthira just can't say no to gambling. He's a great personality in Mahabharata, yet even he can't say no to this habit. Recently I bought a pair of cotton pants to sleep in. And this morning when I woke up, I wore them for the first time yesterday. And they have some stripes on it. And when I was looking at my pants, I couldn't help but think of one of my roommates in university. And I explored why I was thinking about him, and I realized he had the same pair of pants, a similar pair of pants. And I couldn't stop thinking about him. And I was amazed at how simply seeing a design on a pair of pants took my mind from that room in the room across in Badri to 10 years ago when I was in university, living with a roommate. We all know the power of habits. And these habits can either handcuff us or they can release us. They handcuff us in the sense that whenever we know we're supposed to do this because it's important, whether it's studying, whether it's going to a discussion, whether it's going to work on time, but we have that habit of showing up late. And that limits us from progressing. Or we can have habits that release us. Ideas like time management and making satsang part of one's life. They're all simply habits. Some people have a habit of sleeping during satsang. Some people have a habit of being truly engaged in satsang. It's a habit. If you ask any of our acharyas, there are certain personalities that come to every discourse but sleep in every discourse. It's become a habit for them. Like they can't release themselves from that. Whereas other people, despite staying up so late, when they come in satsang, they're totally attentive. They develop that habit. The challenge that you and I face is that today we have too many habits that handcuff us. And these handcuffs lead us into being part-time seekers. That's what these habits have done to us. Part-time. And whenever we're part-time seekers, the happiness we experience is also part-time. If I'm in a job that is part-time, I only get a paycheck. That's equivalent to working part-time. If I go to the gym part-time, those results are going to be part-time. If I'm a part-time seeker, the results, which is happiness, is also going to be part-time. When we are part-time seekers, that message, which our scriptures, which our rishis are telling us, that our nature is happiness. And it's said so definitively. When it comes into this mind of ours, first of all, it's diluted. And because it's not strong enough, it gets discarded. In Dunville, last May, we had a retreat. And part of the retreat was building sandcastles. I can't remember who came to that retreat. And after that, it was a matter of time before the water came in, wiped away all of those sandcastles. But suppose we built a lighthouse there. Despite all of the water around that lighthouse, would anything have happened to that lighthouse? No. In the same way, when this mind is lacking purity, that knowledge comes in, but it's diluted. And if it's diluted, it's not strong enough, it gets discarded. But if the mind is pure, that knowledge takes hold. And it's not discarded then. One is a full-time seeker then. Our sadhus are great examples of this. They live a divine life in every facet. Remember Peaceful Warrior? Dan walks into the room and kicks his shoes off. They both sit down to eat. The guru starts eating. Dan starts just gulping down all of that food. And the guru says, slow down, you might taste something. The shishya says, you have a lot of rules. That's what we think. You have so many rules to practice spirituality. And the guru says, they're not rules, they're insights. Insights I've learned in my life. And the difference between me and you is that you are disciplined in gymnastics, I'm disciplined in life. In every facet of living. Taking one's shoes off, eating, etc., etc. During our yatra, one of our CHYKs that was here last year at the January camp, first CHYK retreat he ever came to, and he came on the yatra with us. And when we finished our yatra, everyone was sharing their observations. And his was, when I first heard this, I thought this was hypothetical. It's pleasant to hear, it's theoretical. When I went on this yatra, and I met the people at Sandipini, at CIF, at CIRS, at Chinmaya Vibhuti, I realized that there's people who actually live this. This is a reality. And so for that person who thought this was theory, is now application. And he's going to at least aspire to apply that in his day-to-day affairs because he's seen the light. That this can be lived. As we discussed in Houston, as I discussed yesterday as well. Many of you have come to many retreats in the last 3 years. I've seen many of you on a regular basis. And I want everyone to understand why I emphasize the Vedanta course so much. I don't want you to think I'm a fanatic. I have a great deal of passion towards life, towards Vedanta. And yesterday, after yesterday's discourse, I was in a different state of mind yesterday. There's too much passion in regards to living Vedanta. The reason why I emphasize the Vedanta course is that this is where that purity of mind is given. It's almost like you don't have to do anything. We talked to some of the brahmacharis and the brahmacharinis there. They've only been there for 4 months. And consistently, everyone is saying, this place is magical. This place is the real Disneyland, etc., etc. They've only been there for 4 months. They don't even know what's going to happen to them in a positive way. And we have 3 of our chicks from North America that are there. Isn't that amazing? We had 3 of our chicks join the 1-year Vedanta course. Akhilesh is one of them. We have 3 of our chicks that are in the 2-year Vedanta course too. And even putting one's foot in the course, which is like that 1/10 of an iceberg, already transformation takes place. Does that mean you have to go to the Vedanta course? No. You can go to any course, you can live it as a householder, you can live it as an Acharya, as a broadcaster, it doesn't matter. But that purity of mind has to be there. And I emphasize the Vedanta course because it is a catalyst. Having been through that, and knowing that everyone in this room has the same opportunity, that's why I share it in the way that I do. Don't understand this as a message of aggression. Understand it as a message of love. Like a mother. If a mother yells at a child or pulls a child's arm, it's to save them from the car or from doing something that will hurt themselves. So please appreciate this as a message of love on why this needs to be lived. Anyone can be a full-time seeker. The only condition is attitude. And when we are full-time seekers, the result will be full-time happiness. When I share these thoughts and parents are hesitant for their children to come to CHYK retreats, get involved with CHYK, go to the Vedanta course, or when even us, despite knowing how much joy we find in eating in Mona, how much joy we find in getting up early and studying, when we still don't do it, I'm confused by this expression. And my only solace in such times is a shloka in chapter 3, where Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, don't shake those who are not ready to be shaken. This is all Bhagwan's Leela. We will understand this knowledge when Bhagwan wants us to understand this knowledge. That is the only solace I have in such confusion of why we make Vedanta a second priority. Purity of mind. In the Vedanta course presently, everyone is given a Chitta Shuddhi chart. And I don't think some of our yatris saw that, but I went to see Rahul and Priya. I think you all know them from Texas. So they're showing me their Chitta Shuddhi chart, and it's ideas like, was there absence of hatred today? Did you wake up on time? Did you eat in silence? Various expressions like that. And they have to put a check or an X. And the idea is that in those 110 weeks, the first part, the skew will probably be X's, or check marks. And as those days continues, they should turn into X's. Was there absence of hatred? Yes, there was absence of hatred. So that purity of mind is being emphasized so thoroughly through such teaching. But often we hear that we're not the mind. Why should we purify that? In Manashodhanam a few years ago, Prabhuji, that's what he taught. The best purification of the mind is no, you're not the mind. But the trick in that is only the pure mind knows that we're not the mind. So a critical mass is needed in purity of mind to finally let go and say, I'm not the mind then. Like a rocket. That rocket needs so much fuel to get into whatever portion of the atmosphere. After that, it can let go. And the gravity will take that rocket where it's supposed to go. So purity of mind is necessary to finally let go of the mind. We are studying the latter part of Srimad Bhagavad Gita's chapter 4. and in the first shloka that we studied, which is focusing on yagnas, on sacrifices, Lord Krishna has given that there's 4 parts to every yagna. Do you remember those parts? So what was the first one? The individual. Then? Material, fire, result, or deity. So again, individual, material, fire, deity. For these yagnas that we're studying, the individual is... Who's the individual? You and I. It is Brahman. Everything is Brahman, right? That's the answer to everything. But at a practical level, it is you and me. We are the jiva. We are the ego. So it is you and I who is making the sacrifice. What is the material? It varies. What is the fire? It varies. What is the deity? What is the deity in every one of the yagnas that we have studied and will study? Brahman. Joy, peace, ananda. That is the result that we are invoking. In shloka 24, which is on page 51, what Lord Krishna says is the person who has the attitude that the individual, the material, the fire, the deity is all Brahman, that person goes to Brahman. And in Vedanta, whenever we hear words like knowing, going, etc., it really means being. The person who goes to Brahman is Brahman. And the beauty of all of this is right now, right here, you and I are what we're seeking. Maya is so powerful that we who are infinite believe we are finite. We are what we're seeking. There's no name to this yagna, but for our own records, we'll call it Brahman yagna. So this is the number 1. We're going to study 12, I believe. The first is called Brahman yagna. And what I want everyone to do, to make sure that this shloka has a foothold in our personality, I want everyone to write out the Sanskrit, if you can write Sanskrit, and English. Definitively English. I hope everyone in here can write English. And keep it with you during the retreat, and when you go wherever you go, to your home, to your residence, etc., put it where you eat. If you're artistic, do it in an artistic fashion. One home I went to, there's a chart that's this big, and it's written on black paper but colored ink. And it says that. And it's beautiful. Every time they eat, you can't help but look at it. So we remember then Brahman. So everyone, please write this out in Sanskrit and in English, and ideally the meaning behind it too. Anyone who's from the DC area, Swami Dhirananda emphasizes this very distinctly, that every Balavira student has to be able to chant this. The next shloka we studied 2 yagnas. The first one in that is Deva yagna. And Deva yagna is the sense objects being offered into the sense organs. The sense objects are offered into the sense organs. So, as you're hearing me right now, what is happening? Sound is being offered into the ears. When you see a video, when you see the clock, objects are being offered into the eyes. That is called the Deva yagna. This is our second yagna, and what I had suggested we do for this yagna is to practice Ekadashi Upavas. Ekadashi means 11, and the idea is that we should offer all 11 organs that we have towards the divine. 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of response, and the mind. Ekadashi in January, the first one is already passed, the next one is on January 19th, then February 3rd, and February 17th. On that day, go into hibernation. Only do what you need to do. If you're in school, go to school. And if you're working, go to work. But only what you need to do. So that doesn't mean, okay, I'm just going to spend hours on YouTube just checking out random videos. That's not needed. On that day, if one doesn't need to eat food, don't eat food. Some people just eat fruit. Some people just drink milk. On days that I fast, no water either. Full 24 hours, nothing goes inside. No radio, internet only for emails, etc., etc. Because I don't need to do anything else. And in conserving all of that, what can be offered is thoughts on the divine. It would be great if everyone practiced Ekadashi together in our respective centers. January 19th, 13th, February 3rd, and February 17th. And what Samvidji had told us when we studied, he said, anyone who loves Narayana, anyone who's a devotee of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, etc., it is a must that one observes Ekadashi. That's why in the present Vedanta course, it is mandatory that the students there observe this. And the third yagna we studied is called Brahma yagna. And what we studied here, Adi Shankaracharya writes, is when the ego is offered into Brahman. The ego is the material, and the fire is Brahman. I received a very potent question at the Global CHYK camp, which I think many of us have thought of, especially those who are actively serving society. How do you prevent the ego from growing in seva? How does one prevent, inhibit, transcend that? And there's only one way to prevent the ego from coming, and if the ego is already there, one way to cut it away, and that is remembrance of the Guru. That is the only way. Because when I remember the Guru, I realize all that I have achieved, all of the greatness is not because of me, it's because of my Guru. And what does he or she do? Says the same, until finally it's Shankara or Narayana or whatever form of Bhagwan we believe in. So all of the people in this room that are actively serving CHYK, for example, remember Guruji, remember Gurudev. They've given us the opportunity to serve. As Swami Srupananda said at the Global CHYK camp, it is a privilege to be able to serve. Remembrance of the Guru is the only way to inhibit the growth of the ego in selfless activities. And the last thought I had shared yesterday was about dreaming, not unconscious dreaming, I mean conscious dreaming. All of the dreams we have in our lives, if one can connect the Guru to that, that dream that we had will be little compared to what will actually happen. If one talks to any Acharya and their experience with Gurudev, with Guruji, and what they started off being and doing, and what they ended up being and doing, it's not possible. There's no connection there. But the dream gets connected to the Guru Parampara, and it manifests in ways that one can never imagine. Remember the Guru, and then dream. We'll read Shloka 24 and 25 together, then we'll move on to Shloka 26, where I'll chant each quarter, you repeat, and then we'll do it together. We're on page 51 right now. Together, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam Brahmakarma Samadhina Devam Eva Pare Yagnam Yoginah Paryupasate Brahmagnava Pare Yagnam Yagne Vopajuhvati. We're on page 57. Shrotra dinindriyanyanye Samyam agnishu juhvati. Shabdadin vishayan anye. Indriyagnishu juhvati. Together. Shrotradin indriyanyanye. Samyamagnishu juhvati. Shabdadin vishayan anye. Indriyagnishu juhvati. And in this shloka we have, though it's written that there's two yagnas, there's actually one because we've studied one already. What Lord Krishna says here, the fourth yagna is called Shrotradini. Shrotradini. And what this is that the sense organs are offered into discipline. So the material is the sense organs, and the fire is discipline. And whenever we hear the word discipline, that's red light goes off. Why should I be disciplined? Why should I restrain? Why should I conserve? But anyone who's ever thought about any achiever in life, any achievement we've done in life, that has demanded discipline. Hasn't it? Even for the organizers of this camp, didn't it require discipline in regards to staying up later, getting up earlier, tending to emails, dealing with conflict? It demands that discipline. I'm often moved by the stories that my father would tell me about when he moved to Canada. He moved to Canada, I believe, in 1974. And he lived in Delhi and Kanpur his whole life. It's extremely hot there. And when he moved to Canada, he had to work as a sailor on the Welland Canal for 2 full years. Anyone who's been to Canada, it's cold. The Welland Canal, colder because you're on water. And what did he have to do? He used to put coal in the engine, and he used to sell things to the different people on the ship. Gum, Kleenex, whatever else it was. 2 years. But in that discipline, he was able to achieve more afterwards, whether it was business success or spiritual success. I think back to the last Mahasamadhi camp I went to prior to the Vedanta course. It was in Orlando in 2004. And though I was a CHYK at the time, I would attend Guruji's discourses. And in the evening, when everyone would break out Uno and Mafia and so on and so forth, I would say, no, I'm going to sleep. Why? Because Guruji's teaching tomorrow. How can I miss out on this opportunity? Even though I don't know who Guruji truly is, I really don't know what he's teaching, but I know if I'm tired, I'm not going to get it. So I may as well increase my odds and go to sleep on time and get up on time. In that discipline, one can achieve more than. Small examples. We all know this. Lord Krishna is not teaching anything new. He's just giving Sanskrit words to what we already know. And then we think, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's a big deal. He's got Sanskrit words to it. So all that we do, again, the sense organs are being offered into discipline. Give the sense organs a purpose. Give them an ideal. Give them an altar. And those sense organs will naturally fall into discipline. There's a common joke that if everyone is traveling at the right speed on a road, that means that there's a police officer around, right? So in the same way, if I give my sense organs a purpose, they will be disciplined. In Batman Begins, Ra's al Ghul meets Bruce Wayne in prison and says, Mr. Wayne, when you have an ideal, you become more than a man. And he asks him, what do you become then? And his answer is, you become a legend. And that's exactly what Bruce Wayne becomes Batman because of the ideal to serve Gotham. In that movie, there's no reference to God at all. I've watched it 50 times. I know that there's no reference to God. But he commits all of his resources, all of his time, and all of his effort towards seva. That's fine. How he sees God in people instead of in altar. His altar is people. In the book He Did It, Gurudev has written or shared, my puja is here. My Ishvara is the people. This is my puja, my altar. For 1.5 hours, I worship Ishvara. Give the sense organs a purpose, an ideal, an altar. What Guruji teaches is the larger the ideal, the larger the performance. And if we take it to pure athletics, regular season, this is how much effort's put in. Postseason, this is how much effort's put in. Olympics, maximum effort. Because the altar has grown, and so does the performance. We all know this, correct? If we develop the habit of constantly satisfying the wants of the senses, two things will happen. Those habits will become more and more sharp, and we will become more and more dull. When we have a habit that's detrimental to us, all it causes us to be is more and more dull. A procrastinator. Aren't they lethargic in everything they do then? Whether it's going to the gym or studying, driving, everything. Give the sense organs a purpose. And if we don't, we will justify why we do what we do. And so how to make this shloka come to life? Ask yourself today and every day, why are you alive today? Tomorrow, ask yourself, why are you alive? The day after, ask yourself again. If we ask ourselves why we're alive and there's no answer, we'll see how our day goes. But if we do have an answer, we'll see how our day goes as well. So write that down. Put it on one's mirror. Why am I alive today? And make sure there's an answer. If there's not an answer, this yagna is not happening. That sacrifice is not happening. And if the yagna is not happening, there's no purity of mind, no happiness. And then in the next line he says, Shabda Dini, which is the sense objects are offered into the sense organs. And why we're not focusing on that is because we just studied that. It's the same as the Deva yagna. Deva yagna is sense objects offered into the sense organs. Lord Krishna says the same thing again. Why he says the same thing again? Because he knows Arjuna and us probably forgot between shlokas, so it's a reminder. We've studied how many yagnas so far? Brahman yagna, Deva yagna, Brahma yagna, and Shrotradini yagna. 4 yagnas. Now we move on to shloka 27. And the glory of this shloka is how comprehensive Lord Krishna is. He's a teacher like no other teacher. The student doesn't have to do anything but be with Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna will take him to the highest heights. This is rare. So let us be with Lord Krishna on page 59, 58, 59. Sarvan indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma samyama yogagno juhvati jnana deepite sarvan indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma samyama yogagno juhvati jnana deepite. And why I say Lord Krishna is so comprehensive in what he teaches, here he says, offer all our perception into the fire of Atma Samyama. Atma Samyama is another word for discipline. Samyama means discipline. Atma here doesn't mean Atman like my soul. It means here he's referring to the ego. Offer all of our perception into discipline. But then he also says, offer all of our response into discipline as well. So all that we perceive, all that we respond with, offer that into discipline. Because if I just perceive and I'm very disciplined about that, that doesn't mean my response will be as well. So he's filling in the gaps. That way there's no way to cut a hole in the argument. All that we perceive, all that we respond with, offer this into discipline, this samyama. And the only way to do that, as Lord Krishna has said here, jnana dipite. It has to be kindled by knowledge. Only when I'm thinking about this yagna, when I'm thinking about the Guru Parampara, when I'm thinking about Lord Krishna, will I offer what I perceive and respond into this fire. Think, and think some more. When we have knowledge, we will want to think more. When we think more, we will understand knowledge more. They both fuel each other. So think. This is why Gurudev has written those books, and the title is Think with an exclamation mark. Think Part 2. Think Part 3, right? There's no need for a further title, just think. That's it. E-vichara. Electronically reflect. Why am I alive? Why do I do what I do? Etc., etc. Why am I engaged in this karma? If I think about it, karma yoga. If I don't think about it, karma. Karma just gets me further into action. Karma yoga frees me from action. The only difference is one is thoughtful, one is thoughtless. And on the 18th, before we began our inspiration yatra, a few of us were in Guruji's kutya, and one of our chicks had asked Guruji, once you're on this path, can you come off this path? Can you turn around? Can you turn back? And Guruji thought for a while, and he says, once you're on this path, you can never turn back. And I asked all of our yatris the same question, and then I gave them some time to think about it, and a few days later, we discussed it, and everyone had the same understanding. Once you know that the only happiness there is in life is oneself, how can you forget that? Those emails that we get where it looks like a candle, but it's actually two faces facing each other, or there's an old woman and a young woman, or when you step away from the thing and you see the object, once you see that, you can never unsee it. You can't forget that. And so we practice that at a secular level. The exact same applies to the sacred level. Once I know the joy of meditation, of satsang, of seva, sadhana, how can I stop doing that? And if I have stopped, it means that I never understood in the first place. One can't turn back on this path. That is the glory of knowledge. And so, the way to live this sacrifice, this yagna, is read. Read more and more and more. Not just one's textbooks or The Economist or whatever else we're reading. But read Gita. That's why we started on shloka 24. You have 23 shlokas before to read. The organizer said, no, we'll just print and photocopy and give you this. I said, no, give them something to read before, afterwards. Read. When I asked Guruji the first time I met him, what brought you to the spiritual path? He said, I used to read the works of Swami Vivekananda, and that inspired me to study further. And as soon as he said that, I went back and I bought Autobiography of a Yogi, and I started reading that too. And that helped me to continue with that inspiration. So inspire oneself through reading, and then jump. Jump wherever that inspiration takes one. But read. Even now, my wife and I, we've made a pact that since we've came back from India, that we will both read for half an hour every day. Because it's so easy for that habit to get lost. Because she introduced me to Mad Men and Breaking Bad and Saturday Night Lights, and they're good shows. I'm not a TV person, but they're good shows, and it's easy to get lost in that. We said, no, half an hour, we will read. And it helps one keep the yatra, this retreat, satsang, alive. Then jump. Wherever that inspiration takes you, jump. That was our 5th yagna. Now we study 5 more in this one shloka. This is a heavy-duty shloka, very relatable. We're on page 60. And this is where that famous term that Gurudev has coined comes from. Dravya yagnastapo yagnaha. Yoga yajnastata pare. Swadhyaya jnana yajnascha. Yataya samshita vrataha. Dravya yajnastapo yajnaha. And here what Bhagavan is trying to encourage Arjuna to see is that every thought, every word, every deed, remember me. Be a full-time seeker is what Arjuna is hearing right now. Whether he's listening or not is different, but this is what he's hearing. The 6th yagna is called Dravya Yagna. And what is offered is dravya. Dravya is materials. It's not just money, it's not just possessions, it is materials. When we do dravya yagna here, we offer coconuts, we offer leaves, we offer butter, etc. So offer materials. Why should we offer materials? Because by offering materials, we dissolve greed. Greed is dissolved by offering materials. One learns to be independent of those materials when they are offered. A lot of us think that we're not addicted to coffee. We're not addicted to golf. We're not addicted to YouTube. We're not addicted to our iPhone. The only way to know that is give it away and see. See if one is addicted or not. This is why Dravya Yagna is emphasized here. One learns to be independent. Sheila and I have a lot of discussions about Dravya Yagna. Because all that we give, all that we get, through marriage or gifts or whatever, I automatically just want to give it all away. Because I've learned to live without that. And I'm encouraging her to learn to live without that as well. And we have discussions. Truly, we do have discussions on this. And she herself is coming to understand more and more how one can be independent of stuff, whether it's possessions, whether it's funds, etc., etc. And remember that this sacrifice is always for the greater good. That when I give away, I learn to be independent. That is such a... And it's stupid to even call it a sacrifice, because what has been sacrificed? The lesser. You don't even call that a sacrifice. It's just intelligent living. And that's all it is. Yet it amazes me. I know so many people in my travels. I go to so many people's homes. And in doing so, I realize how poor people are. And I don't mean wealth-wise. I mean they can't live without that. That they have huge homes, great jobs, but can't give any of that away. That shows their poorness. Outside, lots of richness, but inside, great poorness. And it amazes me. It amazes me that Lord Krishna clearly says Dravya Yagna, but there's no actual practice of that. For us too, this sacrifice is for the greater good. If that means we have to watch one less movie, if that means we have to buy one less suit, if that means we have to eat one less meal at a restaurant. That's not really a sacrifice because one is gaining in that. How many times has Swami Chinmaya said, happiness is not in what we can receive, but in what we can give. Dravya yagna, it's said right here in Lord Krishna's words. Then, tapo yagna. This is our 7th yagna. And what is offered is voluntary discipline. If voluntary discipline is called tapas, what is involuntary discipline called? Please get this right. Please get this right. Please get this right. Titiksha, very good. So voluntary discipline is tapas. Involuntary discipline, titiksha. By practicing voluntary discipline, when discipline is forced upon me, I flow with it. But if I haven't practiced, I get rocked by it. Practice is required. Tapas means to burn. What is burned away in this yagna? Weaknesses. Weaknesses like procrastination, I like to talk about a lot. Weaknesses like not being able to forgive one. See, we often forgive people, but then we can't look at them in the eye. We don't want to be around them. That bitterness develops. Bitterness is burned away when one is practicing tapas. And the way to live this, for everyone in this room, be regular, be sincere with attending our discussions. I'm sure in every city where our CHYKs are from, there are discussions happening. We have 19 different cities already. There will probably be 25 by the end of the year. Be regular, be sincere with the discussions. That is the tapas that one can offer. Offer that tapas into this fire. Why? The ego's offering for what? Brahman. Tapo yagna. Then, yoga yagna. Yoga yagna is the 8th yagna, and that is a sacrifice of yoga. What is offered is yoga. The word yoga means to unite. And the essence of yoga is to be united with all. Just like we learned Brahman is infinite, so yoga is me understanding that I am all. That I have to be united with all. To be empathetic. This is the essence of yoga, to unite with all. And a way to live this, we should ask ourselves every evening before one goes to sleep, did I connect with another being today? Did I connect with another being? Did I make someone smile? Was I able to help someone? Was I able to offer a piece of advice to someone? Was I able to empathize with another being? That's me practicing this yoga, offering this as a sacrifice. Yoga yagna. If everyone did this, imagine what kind of universe we would live in. We were somewhere and I was sharing that there's 7 billion people in the world. If everyone, it was in London, if everyone offered 1% of their time a week towards volunteering, that would be 14 billion hours of volunteering. Imagine what we could do to the standard of living and life if 14 billion hours were given back to the world from which we are taking. This is the essence of yoga yagna, to unite with everyone. The 9th yagna is called Swadhyaya yagna. And Swadhyaya means self-study. Who does self-study? Yatihi. A yatihi means one who is striving. The exact same word as neo. Neo is a short form of neophyte. A neophyte is someone who's striving to be better, someone who's aspiring. Yatihi is the same word. Jatin, for example, comes from yatihi. That ya has been turned into a ja, from Sanskrit to Hindi, etc., etc. This is who does it. So aren't you and I yatihis? And if we're not, we should be. What to do is study every day. Adhyaya means study or daily. Swa means myself. Just like we eat every day for the body, we should study every day for the mind. And I'm not talking about our secular studies. I'm talking about our sacred studies, reading Gita, reading Self-Unfoldment, reading Bhajagovindam, reading A New Earth, reading Power of Now. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about the name and form. Focus on the content. Every day, one should study. And this is important for this group especially. Discussions are not enough to engage in this yagna. Swadhyaya means every day. Most of our discussions are once a week. That's not enough. In Toronto, we've been studying for 4 years now. And those sincere seekers tell me, what can we do now? And I said, you only come on Mondays. You need to study every day. You need to study Gita on your own. And so a way to live this, in addition to this daily study, a way to help this out is sign up for one of our online courses. We have a beginner's Vedanta course. We have an advanced Vedanta course. We have a Gita course, where every 2 weeks you'll get one lesson, which is so little. And for 18 months, it'll be a systematic way to study. It'll force one to be disciplined. Imagine that we were on a yatra every day. You would be forced to engage in satsang. I would not allow you not to engage in satsang. The Gita course is the same way, or the Foundation Vedanta course. Then evolve from that and join a one-year Vedanta course. Or sorry, the Yuvavir course. Evolve from that and join the Vedanta course. Don't we go from high school to undergraduate studies to graduate studies to PhD programs? The same thing has to happen with our own self-study. At the Global CHYK Camp, our North American CHYKs pushed hard for, I believe it was 100 or 200 CHYKs around the world to sign up for the Gita course. And out of our 18 yatris, 15 of them did. And the others, because they're studying for other tests right now. But 15 out of 18 people are now signed up for the Gita course. So that same thought is being put out there. Imagine 200 CHYKs around the world study Gita together. Then we'll be living this Swadhyaya yagna, not just talking about it, actually living it. And the 10th yagna is jnana yagna. This is where Gurudev pulled this term out and shared it with the world. And this is not a sacrifice of knowledge. This is a sacrifice in knowledge. This is what I was trying to say yesterday. You can't say we're sacrificing knowledge, so that way we become more ignorant. Right? That's what we're trying to do. Sacrifice in knowledge. And the only way and the only thing we can sacrifice in knowledge is what? What is it that we have that Bhagavan never gave us? Egos. Bhagavan's given us everything else but our egos. And what does Bhagavan want? He only wants what he doesn't have. That ego. But as that ego comes close to Bhagavan, it gets burned up. And that's why Bhagavan wants more egos to try to get one. But it's losing. He keeps losing because those egos keep getting burned up. Here we offer our ignorance. And when ignorance is gone, all that remains is knowledge. When darkness is gone, light. When sorrow is gone, happiness. This is what we offer. All that is preventing us from being what we want to be is ignorance. That's it. And the fact that there's ignorance means there's a reality. One can't just be ignorant. One has to be ignorant of something else. I have to be ignorant of a language, of a country, of a food. I can't just be ignorant. So if I'm ignorant of my nature, that means my nature is there then. I just have to let go of that ignorance. And the way to do that is call out to Bhagavan. Call out to the divine. Swami Swarupananda was using the example of, in this room, there's a chick named Harsh or Harsha. And he said that if you don't know Harsha, that doesn't mean Harsha doesn't exist. You just don't know him. You're ignorant of Harsha. And the way to not be ignorant of Harsha is call out to Harsha. So in the same way, if we call out to Bhagwan, to the divine, we will know Bhagwan, we will know the divine. Do japa as often as possible. How many of our chick retreats are we given those japa malas? Were you given them in this bag? No, but I see many of you are wearing them. At the yatra, same thing. But what was different about what I see at our chick retreats versus on the yatra, I actually saw people using the japa mala on the yatra. It was just sitting in their hand and they'd be walking around just doing japa. Just like we see pictures of Gurudev, he's just watching the performance and he's doing japa. And what one of our acharyas had shared so powerfully, she said that Swami Chinmaya, when he was younger, he did his upasana on Lord Shiva. He would always imagine Lord Shiva and close his eyes and bring him in his mind. And he did that so regularly and so sincerely that he became Lord Shiva. And that's not a joke. When we were studying in the Vedanta course, around the time of Mahashivratri, many people would tell us that Gurudev would be at Sandipani in Mumbai for Mahashivratri, and he gave strict orders that no one is to touch him on that day. You can't rub his shoulder or touch his feet, nothing. Because that's the day he invokes Lord Shiva. He is Lord Shiva and expresses that. That's the day Lord Shiva manifests. The same way it manifests through him. And if we see, who is Lord Shiva devoted to? Lord Vishnu. Hanumanji's the greatest devotee of Lord Rama. And Hanumanji is an avatar of Lord Shiva. Adi Shankaracharya, incarnation of Lord Shiva. Who did he write his commentaries on what? Vedvyasa's writings. Narayana. So what japa did Swami Chinmayananda do? Of Narayana. Because he is Lord Shiva. And so he's worshipping his Ishtadevata. Call out to the Lord has no choice but to come. And I know as young adults, we often have, what do you mean? Who's Bhagwan? How can I do this? If one doesn't have the devotion or the faith or the understanding about japa, please just don't close your mind to it. It's one thing to not understand, it's another thing to close one's mind towards that. And I say this because when I was learning about the Guru, I thought, who is this Guru? Why is everyone so devoted to a Guru? But I never closed my mind towards it. And I allowed myself to actually experience what I was learning of who a Guru is. And now I receive similar questions from people. Why such worship of Vedvyasa, of Adi Shankaracharya, of Swami Chinmayananda? And I only ask those people is, if you don't understand, that's fine, just don't close your mind. Let whatever's supposed to happen unfold. Keep that same idea with japa. Call out to the Lord will come, and as the Lord comes, what does he have to burn up? That ego. We'll study 2 more shlokas quickly. Naturally, the focus of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is Brahma Vidya, or self-knowledge. But this scripture teaches everything about life. Literally everything. It is a manual on how to live life, and this is shown in shloka 29 on page 63. Apane juhvati pranam. Prane panam tatha pare. Prana panagati ruddhva. Pranayama parayanaha. Yanaha apane juhvati pranam. in this shloka, we study the 11th yagna. So in the last shloka, we studied 5. This is our 11th now. And this yagna doesn't have a name, but for our understanding, we'll call it prana yagna. And what is offered here is prana. And prana is, in this context, breathing. And all Lord Krishna is saying is, when one fills their lungs up with air, it's called puraka, not important. When you hold the air, it's called kumbhaka, not important. And when you blow that air out, it's called rechaka, also not important. The point Lord Krishna is trying to make here is take care of one's health. The pranas are not just one's breathing, it is one's physiological functions, digestion, circulation, this body as such, the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, all of that. Take care of that. And by doing so, that is what's offered. And why should I look after this body, of this breathing, of this heart? So I can know Brahman. Think during this retreat, what if you eat too much for lunch and get sick? Then that will naturally mean you will miss the next discourse, discussion, whatever else is happening. The reason why we need to take care of this body, even though we're not the body, the reason we need to take care of it is until we know we're not the body, this is the instrument which we use. And I need to use this instrument because this instrument helps me know who I truly am. Use the instrument. And in using the instrument correctly, we realize we're not the instrument. In purifying the mind, I realize I'm not the mind. This is what Bhagavan Krishna is trying to teach. Be a full-time seeker, and a full-time seeker is only the one who is strong in body. During our yatra, people were not well. They missed classes. During the Vedanta course, people are not well. They miss classes. And if you're not in the class, listening to it on audio or video is not the same. Watching someone on YouTube speak actually versus being in the actual discourse is different. And so, a way to do this, 5 days a week. I used to say 6 days, but I know we may not do 6 days. 5 days a week, sweat for 30 minutes. Sweat, which means exerting to that intensity. It doesn't mean that you go to a sauna. That doesn't count as exercise, okay? That's sweating, but it's not exercise. Or me doing shavasana for half an hour. That's not exercise either. Sweating for 30 minutes. I met a cardiologist, one of your parents, and he had told me that if a person can sweat for 30 minutes 3 times a week, they will never have to worry about heart disease, other than hereditary stuff. But other than that, they'll never have to worry about their heart being unwell. I say 5 times a week. Not because I just, don't believe what he had said, but we can do more. So we should do more. Especially most of us, hopefully all of us, will be running the half marathon on September 9th here in Chicago. 3 days a week of training is not going to cut it. So 5 days a week, sweat for 30 minutes. That includes while we're here too. We have an outdoor activity for an hour and a half. Let's make sure that everyone's sweating during that time. And our last yagna that Lord Krishna shares is in shloka 30 on page 64 and 65. And as I say, this being a last shloka, don't believe me. Because there should be no last yagna. Everything should be a yagna. Walking should be a yagna. Going to the bathroom should be a yagna. Writing emails should be a yagna. Putting one's clothes on should be a yagna. Going to the bank should be a yagna. So formally this is a last, but no, there is no end. There should be a ... after that. apare niyataharaha pranan praneshu juhvati sarve pyete yagna vidaha yagna kshapita kalmashaha apare niyata This is our 12th yagna, and for those who are following, I hope that there are 12 in that list. And this one again doesn't have a full-out name, but for our own understanding, we can call this Anna Yagna. Anna means food. So what is sacrificed, what is offered is food. What Lord Krishna says here is similar to the previous shloka, but the refinement he makes is niyata haraha, that one should have a well-regulated diet. So I look after my health in regards to breathing, circulation, etc. Here he adds, make sure that one is looking after their diet as well, that they're moderate in their diet. And if our physicians and politicians and teachers studied this shloka, would America and Canada be facing the epidemic of obesity? When it says there in two simple, potent Sanskrit words, be well regulated in diet. This is why Srimad Bhagavad Gita shouldn't just be studied in business schools. It should be studied in medical schools, law schools, accounting schools. Every school should study this. Which is why, like I shared yesterday, we need to make sure that by the time that you and I all die, that there is a CIRS in North America, where Gita is studied alongside with derivatives, etc., etc. Comprehensive. And what is shared specifically about this shloka, our stomach should be in 4 quadrants. 2 of those quadrants should be filled with food. Only 2. Solids. 1 quadrant should be filled with liquids, specifically water. And 1 quadrant, empty. That's what it means to have a well-regulated diet. Half the stomach, solids. 1/4 of the stomach, liquids. 1/4, empty. By practicing this, then we'll be in better health. I'm just laughing because when do we ever practice these ratios? Right? It's all liquid or all food or all, all gas. And it's too bad because it says right here, have a well-regulated diet. I was able to lose 15 pounds last year because I started simply following, like I'd said, 6 days a week, 30 minutes, and 3 meals a day. I was very much the person is, okay, I'll eat 1 meal and then, work to do, so I'll just skip this meal. Work to do, skip this meal. But then I was forced to eat 3 meals a day, and then those quadrants filled in like I had shared, and everything has been much better since then. So I'm not sharing all of this just for theory. This is all lived as well.